which Lions player has the most to prove this season? And instantly I started thinking, you know what? There was one player that instantly flashed across my mind, but you guys already know a way to Detroit Kool-Aid's heart is through the linebacker.
Oh.
And I'm telling you, it's got to be Jack Campbell. I thought that Jack Campbell did well last year. Did well. But we're talking about looking at the noise surrounding Alex Anzalone, looking at the fact that they didn't really do a whole lot to beef that up, that linebacker core. They brought some pieces back to just say, hey, let's run this back. And we know this. When they did that the last time, it was Dan Campbell and co saying, that's our green dot. Not that he played bad. He played good. I was happy with the steps that he took. But what I'm hoping to see this year is that next step to where people are saying, you know what, more than this guy being somebody who can, when he's getting a hit, it's effective. He's understanding how to run down and stop, play within the run. He's understanding and getting a little bit better with the coverage. I thought he took a nice leap forward this season. But I want to see him be that guy who the analysts were gushing over when Alex Anzalone came back. That's what I want to see out of Jack Campbell is that evolution, that next step at being that green dot linebacker, at being effectively that leader or that captain on defense that we've heard Dan Campbell, Aaron Glenn, and Calvin Shepard all say that Alex Anzalone is. And I think he can get there. I really do.
Ooh, Jack Campbell is an interesting one. And before I give my answer, you might as well call me Chris Paul because I'm about to play point guard for just a little bit. JB Smoove, I'm going to pose this question to you.
What's up?
Which Detroit Lions player has the most to prove this season?
I'm going to have to piggyback off of Kool-Aid's answer as well, too. I think it's Jack Campbell, especially given the fact that Malcolm Rodriguez is obviously injured right now. And Alex Anzalone, from what we were talking about last week, he's propping himself up and he's promoting himself a little bit more, which honestly you should be doing. Go and get your bag, which he is trying to do. And hopefully the Lions do decide to, re-sign and extend him a little bit more. But I think it's definitely Jack Campbell. If you're looking at a guy to step up in that linebacker room after these past previous season, it has to be this guy. So give me Jack Campbell.
Ooh, a 2 for Jack Campbell already. Chase, which Detroit Lions player has the most to prove this season?
Part of me wants to say Aiden Hutchinson, but not like anything he has to prove to the fans. It just seems like a few people, and it's been growing a lot lately, are kind of questioning his effectiveness when he comes back. So I feel like maybe just like proving like doubters wrong, I want to say. But I feel like that might not sound quite right answering the question, but that's kind of where I'm leaning. I feel like he's more or less like trying to prove doubters wrong, not necessarily like proving that he I guess I don't know. I might not be saying it the right way, but
I know what you mean because there's still some people that question, he's coming back from an injury. I still see people in this chat to this day think that they should sit him for the first few weeks of the season. I think that that's insane, but hey, I think some people misunderstand that even though it looked gruesome, even though a broken leg is obviously a terrible injury, what happened to Aleem and what happened to Malcolm was actually worse, even though it didn't have that moment where it's like, oh my God, Hutch's leg exploded. An ACL is worse. So I understand what you're saying, Chase. It's like
Hutch has been out. He's he's been out for a while. And I get the mindset that you're speaking to.
Yeah, we just haven't seen him in so long. Like all we've seen from him is recovering and rehabbing. I think like seeing him on the football field and like once he gets those first 2 sacks on the season, I feel like that's going to be like when he really proves to everybody like I've shed the label of this injury and like these question marks that you have. That's I guess that's kind of where I'm saying.
And we know Dr. Pierce, who's worked with pro athletes before, he also talked about that type of stuff too. The mental aspect. He said, is Hutch back from a physical standpoint? He said that Hutch is actually ahead of schedule with some of the things that he's seen, but he believes that the last hurdle, like you said, is the mental one. He said he's cleared the first part of that, but the second part is, you're right, the game action. And I get that because we see how tough he's working, but I second that. When you step out onto that field, it's a little bit different. And I like the way you put that, man, when he gets 2 sacks, man.
Yeah.
Almost as if to push himself that much more. But that's why Aiden Hutchinson is. He pushes himself. And it's weird because the 2 players we've talked about, in Jack Campbell now and in Aiden Hutchinson, I can understand your thought process, and I do believe both of those guys are primed to effectively come through on this.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand what you guys are saying with Jack Campbell. I think from a performance standpoint, definitely, but I think from like a health and just like mental, like
you're on
just like
point.
mental fortitude aspect, I think like Aiden Hutchinson's like trying to prove something else, maybe to himself even.
That's an interesting angle. I don't hate that, and I don't even really think it's your. I don't think he has anything to prove to you. You're just going at it from the angle of this: is he going to come back? Fine. Fans have a certain view.
Where you would probably tend to probably exit stage left if they were like, you know, he gets pressure. Sure, he got off to a good start last year, but he still has to prove it over a full season.
Oh yeah.
And that's what I understand, and that's why I'm glad the way he explained it.
Yes.
Because I get that.
Because believe it or not, he did prove it over a full season in 2023, and he had a couple in the playoffs
he still had
as
haters
well.
Going into last season,
I remember
he still had doubters.
I fought them harder than anybody. But Justin, which Lion has the most to prove this season to you?
And Christian Mahogany, because they're going to define how good this offensive line really is. They're going to define how successful this offense can be, and they're going to make it all go. We're really going to see how big of an impact Frank Ragnow is going to leave by how well these rookies play and second-year player. And so I just think that they're going to be crucial to the success of this team and how good this offensive line is going to end up being, because you know how good Penei Sewell is. You know how good Taylor Decker is. Graham Glasnow is what he is at this point in his career, and you just don't know what you're going to get out of Mahogany, and you don't know what you're going to get out of Ratledge. So I think that they are going to define the success of this offensive line.
Man, we're going all across the board. I like it, though, because I think there's a lot of answers to this, and I don't think there's really been a bad one up to this point. Ryan, which Detroit Lion has the most to prove this season to you?
I'm not going to go a player. I'm going to go the coordinators, if that's even allowed.
All right.
I don't know if that's allowed in this game.
It
but
is allowed.
I'm going to go John Morton and Kelvin Shepard. I think those two are the ones that have to improve the most. You just lost two coordinators who are now head coaches, Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson was phenomenal for us, and Aaron Glenn was phenomenal for us. And John Morton, I'm going to side more on his side because he's got a Lamborghini of an offense. You got Goff. Still a solid offensive line. Not great, not as great as it was, but it's still a solid offensive line. You still have Amon-Ra, Sam Laporta, Gibbs, Montgomery. We know how they are. And can you drive it? And that's what we're going to have to see with John Morton. Kelvin Shepard, obviously, he's got a lot of players who will be coming off of injuries. And a new corner in DJ Reed. So, and Ennis Rakeshaw might be in there as well. But I'm going to go the coordinators instead of a player.
No, that's
I love
two
everybody's
new
answers today.
Yeah, two new coordinators is not something to sneeze at. So absolutely, I get where you're coming from, Ryan. If there's anybody whose selection maybe I disagreed with the most, it's actually you, Mr. Kool-Aid. I think Jack Campbell did enough last year. I don't think he's got a ton to prove. I think last year was his year to prove from his rookie year, whether or not he was just more of a tackle merchant or whether he was a complete linebacker. I'm not saying that Jack Campbell doesn't have places to grow or things that he can improve on, but I thought Jack Campbell was fine.
Well, when you say most to prove, I do believe that there's going to be a lot on Jack Campbell, and that's why in my distinction as it related to Chase's as well, I grouped them and I said, you know what, I believe both of these guys are going to be capable to reach the expectations that I do believe they need to prove. I thought that Jack Campbell was really good. I personally was excited for the season he had, though I could see areas where he could definitely take that next step forward. And when you're talking about the future of the Detroit Lions, their ability to retain the guys that we want to see them retain, I do believe a lot relies on Jack Campbell becoming better in coverage. Jack Campbell becoming just a little, you're not going to give him faster feet, but somebody who can become even more instinctual and as high IQ as we've seen Alex Anzalone be. And I thought that in a natural progression of things, because this is where I stopped short, I don't say these things to like as if they're a detraction of, or as if he didn't reach his precipice. I say it as, he took a good step forward in this year, and I expect Jack Campbell to be somebody to take this next step forward, to add to his game as a young player who's still progressing. Obviously, when he gets the years under his belt of Alex Anzalone, we're hoping that he's somebody that shows to be much better. A whole lot more expectations in terms of where he was drafted and the belief of the organization. And in exactly what they're doing right now by giving him improving. Even when Alex Anzalone went down, here the responsibility is on you to go out there and be the leader of this defense, especially from that linebacker position. And so that's more or less where it's at. Not that I believe that Jack Campbell left something to be desired over this past season, but that I do believe that there's more for him to go out there and do. Similarly to what people said about, even like the young stars in this team, in this city. Think about how much people are still putting on Riley Green, and he's an all-star already. Mm-hmm. Think about how much people are already putting on Cade Cunningham. So that's for me. I see Jack Campbell as that dude. I see him as that guy who can go out there and be an all-pro, but he's not there yet. And that's what I'm saying. When you're talking about who has the most approved, for me personally, I believe there's another level for Jack Campbell to get not just a little bit better, but a whole lot better. To be one of those guys when you're talking about linebackers, you are aptly bringing up. Right now, when you talk about the Detroit Lions linebackers, people always say, "Oh yeah, he had a good season." But who do people talk about? Alex Anzalone. I think that narrative and that discussion, I think it changes this season.
So I get what you're saying. So you believe that he has the potential to be like a Fred Warner or a Roquan Smith, or to even have a season like what Zach Bond had last year for the Eagles. You think he's got that in him?
Look at the tackles that he's racking up, and that's why I believe this guy is going to make he's going to have a high impact on the game regardless, every single season. And that's why I believe that there's some opportunities for him to fine-tune his game and really take things to the next level. I don't think that he's a complimentary piece to Alex Anzalone. He's not that anymore. He's not the pup that's learning. This is one in which now it's his room. It's his unit. I still love Alex Anzalone, and that's what I'm saying. And I want to see him be able to take that. And you're right. Get to that next level. Get to that star level. More than serviceable. It's not like I'd be like if he doesn't, like, oh, poor Jack Campbell, man. No, I'm gonna be still like I'm happy with what he's doing right now, because I remember the night that he was drafted. Where were we at? In Royal Oak?
Yeah, we were at Fifth Avenue.
I remember that. I was sitting right next to Terry Foster. I was sitting. It was crazy. D-Mac, me, and T. Foster sitting there, and we were like, hey, we're gonna just trust him, Brad. And Jack Campbell, it just became somebody who I was like, you know what? This is gonna be one of those guys that I have fixed my kind of trust in Brad Holmes too, and we put it up on Woodward Sports and everything. So I'm not just talking. I'm not just blowing smoke. This was a real thing for me. And so when I do look at a Jack Campbell, I'm like, yeah, get to that star level. Just like we talked about. How crazy this time. We was like, yo, Cade Cunningham was an all-NBA player. People was like, y'all are like, and so that's what I'm saying. Was Cade already? Oh, but he's already a good player. Sure, he was. He did some decent stuff. And we thought that he had enough to be, it was all-star worthy, they even said. And that's kind of where I'm at with Jack Campbell.
No, and you know what? The fact that you were able to explain it more in depth, I get where you're saying. And there's a couple people in the chat with some super chats who also came through with their suggestions. And Dante151 first with $4.99. So the people who are saying to sit Hutch the first couple of weeks, crack is whack. And those are that doesn't. For the record, I didn't mean to make it seem like it was some sort of majority or anything. It's just a couple of people. And the second part, the person who needs to improve, which that's all right. You can go this angle too, is Goff, who with losing Frank now. And
Wait, who?
He said Goff with losing Frank. And I think, and this is actually something that was said on the Lions show with T. Foss, Broder, and Sean Beligian shout out that Jared Goff, he's definitely more equipped to handle pressure from the outside as opposed to pressure from the interior because of his lack of ability to scramble. He's shown some savvy in the pocket, like stepping up and moving around. But in terms of scrambling, no, that's not Jared Goff's game at all. And they're definitely going to need competent center play. They're not going to get Frank Ragnow's center play, but you need competent center play. But what about this one? Based Jiren, $20 super chat as a shout out. I don't even care that you're a Vikings fan. You are the man for
let's get to that merch giveaway.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, get to that merch giveaway, which, man, do we give merch to a Vikings fan or no?
You know what?
Hey,
he earns it. He earns it. Maybe we can send him that Detroit sign shirt.
Hey, there you go. Give him some light. As a Vikings fan, the answer is Dan Campbell. Ooh, we got a Goff and we got a Campbell. Very interesting. Not where I thought people were going, but he's a Vikings fan. Let him explain. Okay. People believe he's a Ben Johnson merchant. He has the pieces. Get it done, or else you're the Lions' Mike Zimmer. Good enough to change the culture, not good enough to win it all. And to be first off, I think there's a 0.00000% chance that Dan Campbell becomes Mike Zimmer. Not saying Mike Zimmer was a terrible coach, but he didn't really do anything to raise the ceiling for the Vikings. They didn't do anything of significance under him. But at the end of the day, if the Lions do take a step back and, I don't know, even go, let's just say the Lions, and I don't want to throw this out there, even go 11-6 and miss the playoffs. Or 11-6 and lose in the first round of the playoffs. You might still be hearing some things. I don't think it's going to happen, but yeah, every time a head coach loses his coordinators, there's something to prove. Although I think that we all believe he's up for the challenge.
You know what? There's some names here. How about we take a quick one, come back and talk about some of these names?
Yeah,
because some of these are intriguing.
Because I haven't even given my answer yet, and none of you have given the one that I think is the most obvious.
So you give yours, and then we'll be able to kind of talk about several of these. And the people gave the super chats. We can definitely focus in on those topics as well. Because Dan Campbell, from a Vikings fan, that one, yeah, listen, man, you got my ears perked up. You definitely. That might find its way onto